Guys, so today I'm going to go over what my number one piece of advice for new drivers is. And I obviously get a lot of questions from new drivers, experienced drivers, and actually this advice really applies to anyone. But I'm going to focus on new drivers because I think that they often have the most questions and a lot of them can be solved by doing this one thing. Now, if you've been following my site, you probably already know what it is. But if you're new to the site or new to the YouTube channel, I'm going to let you know right now. Now, my number one piece of advice is to take a ride as a passenger. So, you might be thinking that it's a little counterintuitive, right? If I want to be a great driver, why would I want to go out and take a ride as a passenger? And the thing that a lot of drivers don't realize is the passenger experience, it starts before you even pick someone up, right? And this is one of the things I first learned taking Uber, because I actually started off as an Uber customer, as a passenger, right? And there's so many things that you can actually learn as a passenger once you're a driver. I mean, passengers, they just go through the motions, they call a ride and they go. But if you're a driver, you're a lot more in tune with how the app works. And unfortunately, you don't know things like when notifications arrive to the passenger's phone. For example, there's a big problem with Uber passengers, right? That they don't come out on time, right? You get to their location and you can't start the ride yet, and now you have to wait 3 to 4 minutes, and that's all time that you're not getting paid. So, for example, on the passenger app, they actually get notifications when you're on your way, when you're 1 minute away, when you arrive, right? So you want to know when these things are coming in and what it looks like from the passenger's side. So, hey, maybe these notifications aren't causing, your phone to vibrate or your phone to go off. Maybe a text message will be more effective. So these are the type of things that you can learn from taking a ride as a passenger. And I mean, I can just give you another quick example. One of the first things I learned from starting to do more rides as a passenger once I was driving was that, hey, a lot of passengers, they actually call for an Uber. And as soon as they call for it, they follow the driver, right? They're following them to see, all right, are they just sitting there in a parking lot, or are they, because the passengers can track the drivers on the GPS and they see, hey, I want to know if this driver's coming. Okay, they want to see if you're actually on your way or not. If you get lost, they might cancel, right? So that's something to consider. The passenger experience starts before they even get in the car. And that's one of the things I learned from taking a ride as a passenger. And just in general, I mean, the coolest part about taking a ride as a passenger, well, is first, you get your first ride free. So up to $20 off of your first ride. So there's really no excuse not to be doing at least 1 or 2 rides as a passenger. And I mean, you might even be able to talk to your CPA and see if you can write off future rides as market research. I know that I will and do. But for you guys, you go out there and Uber is always adding things, adding updates to the app. And for you, it really, it helps to understand this passenger process. I know that on Lyft, for a while there, when the tipping process was a little bit confusing, a lot of passengers would ask me, hey, how do I give a tip? And as a driver, if you've never taken a ride as a passenger, it might be a little hard for you to explain how to leave a tip. And it was pretty confusing there for a while until Lyft revamped their tip screen. And I know that me personally, I actually saw pretty good tips, much higher than other drivers, because I went through the process and there were a couple little tricks you had to ensure. And even if they left the tip amount, you had to make sure that they swiped back to another screen and hit submit. If they just closed out the app from there, you wouldn't get a tip. So there are little things like that you really want to make sure. And I actually saw this firsthand big time with Postmates. As you guys know, I'm doing a big series on Postmates and how trying to see if that can be some opportunity there for Uber and Lyft drivers. And when I went to my orientation, I would say the 90% of the questions that were asked could have been solved or answered if all of these drivers had done a delivery with Postmates. So I actually, before I even signed up to be a driver with Postmates, I did 2 deliveries as a customer, right? They give you $10 free. So for me, it was kind of a no-brainer. I ordered a El Pollo Loco chicken tostada, and it came to my house. And I got to see firsthand how tipping works, how the app works from the customer side, what the driver has to do, what the driver was dressed like, and everything. I mean, you learn a lot about the drivers too, because let's say I'm an Uber passenger, I call for a driver, and they're a 4.9 rated driver. I say, wow, I can learn a lot from this guy. What does he do that I'm not doing, right? Let's say you get into the car and you're used to bombarding the passenger with a bunch of questions. Maybe he doesn't say anything. He or she doesn't say anything, and they let you get settled first, and then they say, hey, would you like me to change the radio station? A few minutes later, they say, hey, are you interested in a bottle of water, right? Instead of bombarding you with all these questions at all at once, which I know that some drivers have done in my experience as a passenger, and it's really quite annoying. So these are just some of the things you can learn as a passenger. And I think even more to that respect, we all know that it's very difficult to get feedback in regards to ratings, right? For example, I know some Uber drivers get a weekly summary, but for whatever reason, I'm one of the drivers who has never gotten a weekly summary, so I've never seen one piece of feedback from one of my riders. Luckily, I'm a pretty high rated 4.93 star Uber driver, but let's say I was 4.6, let's say I was 4.7, and I'm risking deactivation. I don't even know what I'm doing wrong. It's very difficult to find out, to turn that around if you don't know what you're doing wrong. And by taking a ride as a passenger, you can actually go and let's say you get a 4.6 or a 4.7 rated driver, and you can see, all right, if they're consistently getting rated low, they must be doing something that passengers don't like. For example, one thing that I see all the time when I get into Uber cars is drivers don't have their phones mounted. I mean, it's something very simple, but all of these drivers are looking down at their crotch every time they need to make a turn or every time that they need to see where they're going. And it's just pretty unsafe. I mean, as a passenger, if I see my driver looking down, I mean, these guys, it costs $15. You can go and get a little Kenu airframe or any of the other mounts that are pretty reasonably priced, 10 to 20 bucks, very inexpensive on Amazon. Get that free 2-day shipping with Prime, and it'll be right at your house. And then you have this tool that's maybe now you don't get one complaint from passengers because you're not paying attention. And it's just very simple little things like that you might not think about since you're a driver and you're used to doing it every single day. When you start taking rides with other drivers, you start to notice these very little things that maybe you didn't think had a big impact, but you can start to notice trends and things like that. So hopefully you guys understand the importance of taking a ride as a passenger. And I mean, it is convenient too if you're out there and you use it once in a while. There's plenty of opportunities where you can use it. You can refer new passengers and get free credit that way, and that way you don't even have to pay for it. And then just think about, I'm a huge fan of kind of continuing education. And this is one way that you can really learn from other drivers firsthand. Obviously, you can read about it and watch videos on my site and other people's channels, but I really think there's no substitute for firsthand experience. So this is a great way to get firsthand experience by going out and taking a ride as a passenger, seeing what other drivers do well, but also seeing what they don't do well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, let me know. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and I'll be here. All right, take care, guys.